Your personal brand shows up in the room before you do, and it stays there after you leave. The biggest challenge with personal branding, people think it's about them. Celebrate others. That's the magic to building a personal brand. So I don't share testimonials for me. Other people do that naturally because I'm helping them all the time. It's because you're giving that you get. To me, the most important part is you can transfer trust when it's not about you. Put yourself out there because you are the gift. Your presence is a gift. You don't know it yet. So I know what I'm good at and know what I'm not good at because I'm authentic. I'm not going to be an intellectual because I'm not an intellectual. You know that about yourself and just be you. But as a human, you should never change. Your presence matters. And if you're not out there, you're not going to know what you're missing. So I know where Gary Vee was. He wrote about 700 blogs before anybody paid attention and did 600 videos before anybody paid attention. So he's who he is now because of all those that wasn't. Just get started. Forget about being afraid. Good things will happen in a year if you start now.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. If you wouldn't mind just telling the audience briefly what it is you're doing currently.
So currently, I am co-founder of a company called Strata Originals. We work with entrepreneurs, builders, and founders to help them build their personal brand to drive whatever is important to them, whether it's their business, writing a book, going coaching, whatever they want to do, whatever is important to them, their personal brands, their power play.
When did you realize that your 9 to 5 couldn't give you the life you wanted?
That was interesting because the first 30 says I'm old, right? So first 30 years of my career, I was in corporate, right? And so the accidental story on how I became an entrepreneur, so I didn't do the 9 to 5, was I met my business partner Leanne at a NASDAQ listed IT security company. We sold off that business, and then she asked me, "Well, what are we going to do now?" And I said, "What do you mean we? I'm going to go find a job as a CEO somewhere and we'll be friends for life. You're an expert in PR." She says, "Why don't we start an agency?" I said, "Well, we have no money. We have no ideas. Let's do that." So that's exactly what happened. We started with nothing 19 years ago now. And we transitioned to personal branding about 4 years ago after we saw a market change that we needed to take advantage of. But it was really a roll of the dice, and it's been fantastic ever since.
Nice. Out of interest, Alan, I love those kind of stories where people start with nothing and it somehow works out. Let's say somebody in the audience, they've maybe got nothing. They've got $50 and maybe an idea. What's something that you would suggest that they do that can help them with little resources to at least get going in business or in their personal brand?
Well, unfortunately with me, everything's social media related. I think the power of digital is incredible if you know what you're doing. So if you have $50, start building relationships with people who have $100 and $200 and $500. And if you have an idea and you have passion and you have the right attitude, you can do anything today because the gig economy is real, right? You can go on Fiverr and be an entrepreneur in 2 seconds. And if you don't have the resources, you can find the people who do. There's lots of people looking for partners. So that's what I would do is go build relationships because it's free, right? And just go support others and they'll support you. That's what I would do. In fact, when we started our business 19 years ago, I went to one of my first client was a friend. And I told him what we're doing. He says, "Great." He hired us. He was our first client and has always been our biggest client, which is a mind blower. But people want to help you and support you. Just ask.
Love that. It's that ultimately, especially as well with AI and technology, which is great, and there's no problem with that. Ultimately, it's human relationships, it's human connection, it's networks that really help and make a difference in people's chances of success.
I just did a talk to 50 between the ages of 22 and 28 years old. I was in New York. And what I came away was recognizing, I told them, and it's an old saying, but your net worth is equal to your network. You've heard that before. They'd never heard that before. And what I explained to them is I said, you have 500 people in your group, right, in New York. Are you all connected on LinkedIn? They said, no. I said, you're missing out on gold because 10 years from now, they'll be your business partners and your friends and your customers and your referral people. So understand the power of that and building your personal brand in that context. Magic will happen. You just can't see it yet. And I've been mentoring them in the last week, and it's so cool to watch them flourish now to understand the importance of that human connection piece. So yes, Becky, you're absolutely right.
What's the biggest lie people believe about building a personal brand?
They don't need one, and they have one already. That's the biggest lie. So, David, I don't know you or Becky, but you have a personal brand. When people describe you, they describe you a certain way. So I always say that your personal brand shows up in the room before you do, and it stays there after you leave. So what are people saying about you? And the question that we ask ourselves now is, well, are you intentional about sharing that with others? Are you giving the best of yourselves to others? So it's not about pounding your chest and saying, look at me, I'm smarter than everybody else. No, you all have a gift. Everybody has one. How do you share that with others to their benefit, which comes back to you 100-fold? But if you do that first, great things will happen. And that's the biggest lie, is that I don't need to do this. Okay, good. Then you won't know what you're missing. Literally and figuratively, you won't know what you're missing.
There are some pitfalls, and I'm sure the list is endless. But sometimes too much managing of a personal brand can go the wrong way. Trying to maybe be a people pleaser, or trying to name drop or flaunt certain things that you've done can go the wrong way. So, what would you say would be like maybe the Pareto principle, where like someone could do a little bit of management for like a pound of cure, if you will, or an outsized impact on their personal brand in a beneficial way?
Well, what you just described is the biggest challenge with personal branding. People think it's about them. And as soon as you flip it on its ear and say it's about others, and you're authentic and true to that, those problems go away. So, for example, I won an award through an organization I'm part of. Did I post that? No. Somebody else posted that. I'm not posting, look at me, I'm the best chapter chair they've ever had. I won an award. No, it doesn't matter. It's for others to celebrate you. So, to me, when we talk to our clients, we don't tell them to celebrate those things. Celebrate others. That's the magic to building a personal brand. Be a giver of your information, your perspectives, and your knowledge. It changes the game. And oh, by the way, we've had probably done about 1,000 videos with our clients. I want you both to guess how many negative comments you think we've had in over 1,000 videos. Any guesses?
Zero?
Zero. Because when you're sharing a story and it's your story, you own your story. And if you're doing it in the benefit of others, nobody can attack that. They can attack the premise or the perspective, but it's real, it's yours, and you own it. So that's the safe zone of that. And all the other stuff is the noise you see with influencers and all that other stuff. And that's not what we recommend at all.
So I'm wondering the balance between, like you said, you're not going to beat your chest and say, look at me, I won this award, or look at me, I got this. At the same time, there's an element, I assume, of maybe sharing testimonials or things like that so you can give other people's perspectives on yourself. What would you say the balance is there?
So here's what happens. You like stories, Becky. You shared that earlier. So I had something happen to me that was embarrassing and humbling. I've never had experienced that. A gentleman I met through an organization did a post on me out of the blue because he read a quote on friendship, and he said, "This is," and he put a picture of me. I don't put my picture up on these on my picture of me full screen, and described how much he cared about me and loved me and said I was wonderful. And then the stuff that came in all over that, I couldn't believe what was happening, and it made my heart beat warmly. It was beautiful, but that came out of the blue. So it's not about me sharing my testimonials. Others will do that. When you're out there, someone will go, "You're really awesome, David, Becky, you guys are great." That's all fair, but it's because you're giving that you get. So I don't share testimonials for me. Other people do that naturally because I'm helping them all the time. So that's the difference of it. It really, I'm going to go back to it 1,000 times. What our saying is very simple. It is sharing your uniqueness in the service of others. That's it. That's the secret to good personal branding. That is safe personal branding, and it's helping others do that. You guys are doing that through your podcast, right? You're doing it. What I'm saying is podcast, digital, other podcasts, speaking gigs. There's a million ways to connect. Make sure you're doing it at scale. What we say is you can build your personal brand at scale on digital, and this is digital. This is one of the ways to do it.
If someone only has 10 minutes a day, what should they do to grow their personal brand?
They should be celebrating others. I know I'm like a broken record, but they should go online and they should go to David and Becky's LinkedIn and go and then comment on their post or comment on the podcast with an insightful comment, not just great podcast, Here's what I learned. Here's my perspective. And I'll tell you why. You know Gary Vaynerchuk. We've all heard of Gary Vaynerchuk, very famous, right? So I go once a week. I do at least 5 to 10 of those a week, but every once in a while I take the big guys and go see what will happen when I comment. So I commented on Gary Vaynerchuk's thing, and I tried to make it very insightful. I know he's not going to see it, and there was 1,500 comments. So he'd say, "Well, I'll be lost in that." How many impressions did I get on that comment? 522 on the comment. So what it teaches you is there are other people that are looking at your stuff. You're always on, and if you're delivering value, people will see it. Doesn't mean it's going to turn into business tomorrow, but I plant the seed there, and then someone goes to follow me or grabs my newsletter or sees a video, and after 7 or 8 hours of spending time with me, they eventually either refer me or will do something else. That's the beauty of it. It's the spreading of the gospel, if you will. I hate to put it that way, but it is that, in fact, that you're spreading that out over many people.
You know what fascinates me is wondering who the Gary V is before he's Gary V. Because before we're all aware of him, he was someone that no one really knew. And of those 512 impressions or whomever saw your comment there could be the future Gary V.
100%. And here's the fun thing that people don't know. So I know where Gary Vee was. He wrote about 700 blogs before anybody paid attention and did 600 videos before anybody paid attention. So he's who he is now because of all those deposits. It's, when we don't think, people ask me all the time, how long does it take to build your personal brand? I said, how old are you? And how long have you already done to build your personal brand? So now be intentional. So in my case, I've been very intentional for about 17 months. At about the 1 year mark, the world exploded for me and stuff started coming at me like crazy.
Why does it happen like that?
Because people need to spend time with you. Trust isn't something that, you and I, we haven't met. We can build trust based on our interactions through it, but we don't know each other. But if we spend time together 6 or 7 hours, we're either going to like each other or not. And that eventually people go, I trust that person, ergo, I want him or her to help me with my personal brand. So we get leads every day, either for a podcast or a speaking gig or a client, not spending any ads on money because we're delivering, hundreds of pieces of content, arguably. And I have my own personal branding content that's different than my Strata content. So it happens over time. And do you mind a quick story?
Sure. Yeah, please.
A friend of mine was attending a physical event. We all go to events from time to time. And sometimes we decide not to show up, right? Oh, I'm too tired. There's too much traffic. I don't want to do this. He decided to pull himself out of bed at 5 a.m, get downtown to Toronto, go to an event. And what happened was he ended up meeting the speaker and doing a $10 million deal. $10 million deal. If he didn't show up, that deal never existed because they didn't know each other. So my point is this. On digital, you get to do that every day. You get to open up and things will come to you. If you're not there, as my business partner says, it's like you're at a networking event and you're facing the wall. You're not going to make a difference. So get out there and stuff can happen to you if you're out there.
Now you understand my sleep schedule, Becky.
Yeah. So, I heard something the other day, and I wonder what you think of this, Alan. And I might have the numbers slightly wrong, but it was a podcast, and they were talking about the thing with celebrities that we feel like we know them, and that celebrities get stopped in the street by people that know them, but they don't know them the other way, and it's kind of a weird thing. And it was essentially talking about the fact that because we consume content from people, and that might be on TV or through movies, or that might be on social media, we feel like we get to know them. And there was some sort of rule, and it was something like, and you might know the numbers better, 11 separate times that they see you, 7 total hours across 4 different types. Have I got the numbers right there?
That's exactly it. And they were referring to Steve, I think it was Steve Allen and who's the other actor? Forgotten his name right now. But that they were also different in terms of how they know them. One through movies, one through TV. One is I need to go to see you in a movie. The other one is you're in my living room every day. But the point is really the most important thing is when people contact me now, they know me. I've never met them, but they feel they know me because they've seen my videos, they've seen my conversations, they've seen my questions, they've seen my podcast. They're at a disadvantage. I'm at a disadvantage because they know me, but they already trust me. So all the game of who are, I never get, well, I'm looking at your competitors. I never get that. Because if they've reached me, there's a reason they've reached me. So you're absolutely right, Becky. That is so key. And imagine the 7 hours, it might be over a year. That's okay. Consume a 20-minute podcast, a little bit of a video, a 30-second clip. All of that matters. It takes time. I think to David's point, let's be honest, it takes time and it takes commitment. But if you're all a small business owner, what else are you doing but selling? That's what you should be doing most of the time. And you should have other people delivering. That's the magic. And so that's why I love this stuff, because it gives me a chance to share what I'm passionate about.
I found that I had a discussion with a business partner recently, and I found that I was focusing too much on building the theater and not enough on the play itself. There's an argument to be made for both. I mean, the theater could be a force multiplier, but without the play, you essentially have nothing, and then you have to find a new owner at below market rates for an empty lot of land. So, how do you navigate understanding like how much you're getting into form and substance?
Well, at the end of the day, I think I come back to this is that when you're passionate about something, then it's something you'll do a lot of. And if you're decent at it, then you'll continue to do that. Because the issue that you get is you get stuck. The old adage gets stuck on working on the business versus in the business, right? We all get stuck in that row, right? So what I'm trying to do and what my business partner is trying to do, we're trying to do less and less inside that business and more outside the business, because that's what drove the success. But then you get caught up and now you're in the business and, well, we're good. Business is great. That's the kiss of death. Kiss of death is going, oh, I've got enough business. No, no. Then, something happens politically and your world changes overnight. I better start prospecting now. Too late. So making the deposits that we do is we make the deposits on our socials and in other places like that and in events to build up that to a place where it's always ongoing. And then that stuff will happen. Then we need to staff up to handle the excessive load that we get. But that's a good problem to have, right? But I don't want to be doing more of that. I want to be less of it.
Do you have any go-to heuristics for determining authentic feedback versus flattery? Like your grandma telling you you're the most handsome boy in the world, versus like understanding, okay, maybe I need to work better at podcasting or marketing or some other aspect that you're getting positive feedback in?
Yeah, if you have real friends, they tell you the truth, and I think to me that's not an issue. And I get a lot. Even today, it was embarrassing. I did a podcast, and I got, and I'm saying this, and I'm kind of crunching at the same time. I'm telling you this because I keep saying it's not important to do that, but when it's unsolicited and it's real, it's valuable because that means it's a validation that you're doing good in the world, right? At the end of the day, we all do good in the world. We just sometimes don't identify that we're doing good in the world. So for me, authenticity is the key. And if you're true to yourself in everything you do, not everybody's going to love you. Get in line. We're human, right? But as Dale Carnegie said, find people that believe what you believe, and that's all that matters. So in my world, I attract givers. I attract people with heart leadership. That's what I'm all about, and that's what I attract. And so my world is very isolated or insulated in that world. I don't get negative people, and if I do, and I don't talk about politics, I don't talk about religion, and I want to sometimes say something, but it doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve me to talk about it. Just doesn't serve me. So I so want to say you're an idiot. Oh my God. So I'll tell my friends that, but on public things, why am I doing this? I'm doing this to impact leaders so they get out there and share their story. That's our why. Inspire readers to do that. If they need our help, that becomes a secondary piece. Anything that distracts from that, I don't do because it's not helping me and it's not helping the mission.
I think that's strongly and fairly said as is. I just want to add maybe one little detail that came to mind when you said that. I think one extra challenge of weighing in on politics or something is that it's a fluid kind of thing that is very contextual at the moment. And you lose that temporal context when you see someone like a tweet 10 years ago. Look, this person said this about this. And it's like something else might have come up about that particular politician or political party or bill or whatever it is that they're commenting on that is a totally different nuance. I mean, was it Abraham Lincoln was a Republican? And it's like that really kind of blows people's minds. Like, what? I thought that. It's like these things are fluid and changing, and so I don't have the perfect answer, but I think that if you're a betting man and having to make a binary decision, it's probably best not to go in on politics on social media.
Yeah. Well, again, but it depends on your goals, right? If you're trying to be, right? So I have a buddy of mine who does a lot of advocacy work. All right. You're in the, you know, get people mad business, right? So I'm not. So I also warn him in that category, just stay in your lane so that you can keep it that. So that's kind of what we advise people. If you're an expert in this, stay in your lane, but you're a human and you're allowed to have those other comments, recognizing it comes with some stuff. That's all.
So on the staying in your lane thing, I notice this on LinkedIn a lot that people, and myself included actually, just as humans, we do have more than one thing that we might be interested in or that we've done before or that we can have some insight on. But when it's too spread, then there's no real theme or there's no real, I can't really pick from what does this person do? What's the balance between saying leadership is my thing, but also maybe sales or also maybe marketing, right? Where's the line there?
So you just mentioned four things that I'm known for, but here's a little story. You love stories, right? So when I started this journey as a personal brander, I said, well, they're going to know me as a marketer, right? Because I've had 20 years in marketing. And I also was part of this organization called YPO. I'm still part of that organization. It's a CEO leadership organization. Or am I seen as a leader? So I did videos on both. I got crickets on the marketing. They didn't care what I knew. They saw me as a YPO leader, and that's how they experienced me. And that's where they started to interface. So to answer your question, your audience will help you determine what's important. And also your goals are to determine what's important. If you want to showcase your leadership expertise, well, okay, break that down for me. What's the context of your leadership experience? Is it as a female executive? Is it as somebody that came from another country and immigrated here? Is it somebody that grew up without formal schooling? All of those things matter because you don't have a book that has 100,000 sales to it. So Jim Collins is was a leadership guru. Not for small business, he's not. For big business, he is. So the context matters, your perspectives matter, and your goals matter. When you have all those lined up, that's who you are. I talk about leadership and personal branding because I put them together. I think it's a leadership tenet to be a good person doing your personal brand on behalf of you and your company and your audience. So that's how I break it up.
Do you have I can't believe I did this as a business owner?
How many do you want?
Well, I guess we could just start with one that comes to mind.
Well, I think for me, I am an overwhelmer. So I overwhelm people, not personality wise, but um, when like I cannot get overwhelmed. I can take in, give me gobs. I can't, but I think everybody else is like me. So I might present 30 pages to someone and go, oh, you get that? When they really needed one slide with a few graphics. So I need to be, I do that all the time to my customers, to my employees, to my business partner. And so it's something I've got to be mindful of, right? And so I ask for the filter. Is this too much? Yeah, it's always too much. Okay. So I have to back off and recognize what's the simplest way to get this out because I don't get scared by 40 pages, but not everybody can do that. So that's my always have to keep an eye on thing because when you overwhelm people, you lose them, and when you lose them, got to get them back a different way. So that's my business moment that I always struggle with. I've always struggled with, but that's how I'm built, unfortunately. So.
I'm consistently surprised that we're able to communicate and cooperate at all. Given like the more that I learn, the more I realize that I don't know, and the more I realize like how many variables there are. Um, Quick like little side story. I lived in Asia for a long time in places that you didn't necessarily need to drive a car, but grew up in a place where you did. So I was just very used to driving, and then I kind of adapted to not driving for a number of years. And when I came back to the driving environment, I was like, how did I ever do this? Like, there is so many variables. If someone sneezes, we're all doomed. And it's similar in life. It's like how, so when you mentioned that you assume people think like you do, I'm guilty of that as well. I think we all are. And yet the strength is in the ways in which we think differently somehow held together by this thread of empathy or luck that we're able to collaborate.
It's interesting. So my business partner, Leanne, is full on ADHD, right? Like full on. And so you take someone who's an overwhelmer and say, like I am, we are at the polar up. But why does it work? Because the way she looks at something is different than the way I look at something, even though we're looking at the same thing. We come at it from diametrically opposed areas, but it's better because we both looked at it. I'll say, but we need a process to do that. No, no, no. I can just do it by the seat of my pants. Hers works for her. So the idea of divergent thought, wow, when you can pull that together without too much conflict, you have magic. It's taking the best of all of that. But it's not easy, but we're human.
Someone will see a square where someone else sees a cube, where someone else sees lines that could be kind of organized to make any shape.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So talking about seeing things in different ways and the beauty in that, I wonder for you, Alan, what would you say? What's freedom for you? What's financial freedom for you in your business and what you're doing?
I don't really actually think about financial freedom. I think if I do the work, the money is a thing that is a result of the work. Because when I have focused on money, it doesn't show up. When I focus on, and quickly, quick story, discovered my passion by accident. When we were doing this work starting 4 years ago, we thought, oh, well, here's an opportunity to productize a business and do something that's not out there in a big way. And because we had experience in content development. What we discovered is the CEOs were going through a transformation while they were working with us because one of our clients said, thank you for, this is their words, not ours. Thank you for changing my life. And we said, what do you mean? I now see myself the way you do. So think of the power behind that. So I discovered my passion as a result of what I thought was content. That's all going to disappear with AI. In 3 years, that part of our business is going to be automated. But the transformation part and the work we do with our executives, that I get goosebumps when I think about it because I know what they go through when they're going through this exercise of finding out who they are and then taking the leap of fear to go on the other side and doing video. Terrifying. People who've run billion-dollar businesses are terrified with that little green light. And we help them get over that and learn how to tell stories. And wow, magic happens. But that's the challenge. So I focus on that and I'm watching things start to just get better and better because people want to be part of that.
You mentioned AI, so and you also talking about kind of videos and things. A twofer, really. First question is, do you think video is a more impactful way to be present online than text or images? I assume the answer is yes, but I'd love for you to unpack that. And secondly, do you think AI will replace that element where humans won't be doing it at all?
So that is absolutely will is the goal, but our entire world is about fighting against that. So I'll tell you why. So 100% video is the most impactful. Why? You either like me or not like me. There's no interpretation of what I'm saying to you. My language, my eyes, you like me, you don't like me, that's fine. Words can be interpreted, right? I don't care how great a writer you are, someone's interpreting it based on their filter. There's no filter when you're looking at me. You look at me, you like me, you don't like me, fine. But when you start thinking about AI, let's transition to that. This could be AI. The three of us could be AI having this interview right now. So, but what I think the difference will be is that we need to maintain the humanity. That's the only advantage we have, is the heart that we have. AI today can mimic those behaviors and mimic those words and mimic those facial expressions, but they can't replace the feeling part. And so to me, that's where I think we need to focus. Our business is focused on the humanity part. In fact, we call it human to human is the new approach. As you, Becky, started out with that conversation, we believe now it's building trust at scale with humans and AI being a support tool that works for us. For now, that could change in 5 years. But for now, I think we have the ability to control. And then by then, I'll be retired. I'll be 70. I'll be done. So.
You mentioned how looking at yourself, and as a matter of fact, I think Becky, she has a background in coaching people how to do presentations and stuff. And part of that sometimes is like recording yourself and looking yourself back to come to the kind of realization that you mentioned there, Alan, where you're seeing yourself as others might see you, or at least differently than perhaps you can see yourself. Um, but what would be your advice to someone who's afraid of seeing themselves essentially, and like afraid to post their first video or share their story online?
So can I be honest?
Please.
Get over it. Let me tell you why I say that. If you're an entrepreneur or a small business owner, the alligators have been at your ankle since you started the business. You've been through some stuff and you're letting this little green light scare you. So now that's the daddy part of what I said. The reality is you can take this thing and practice until you're comfortable. What we tell people is point it at your face when you have an idea, talk to it for a little while, and don't post. Do it 15, 20, 30, 100 times. Show your partner, show your friends. What do you think? Does this look like me? Does this sound like me? And when you get to a place where you're comfortable, like the other day, I had an idea. My business partner said something. I said, hold on. I put her on hold and I recorded a video. I said, okay, I'm done now. Let's go. Because we developed the skill and the confidence, because confidence is developed by doing, right? You do and do and do until you get it, right? And Becky, if that's what you're doing with people, it's the same thing. You're building their confidence when they're terrified. So what we tell people is we teach them the skill of storytelling. They own their stories. No scripts. We don't want scripts because scripts get you in your head. We want you in your heart. And we want you to pretend we're having a glass of wine or a coffee with you. And I've just asked you a question and I'm your customer. How would you answer that with a story? That's easier than trying to remember 4 bullets, 3 bullets, 2 bullets. I have to make sure I get it all. No, one thing, get it done, a little bit of a hook or how you start your video, and off you go. And when they get past the noise of that and they get to practice with our coaching, the other side is we can't stop them after that. They've gone and they've learned and they're growing. So it's fun.
Do you ever help people with doing advertisements?
We did in our previous business. We don't do ads anymore. Everything we do is organic. Now, one exception to that rule. YouTube is our friend, and you can advertise your videos on YouTube. So we do that with our clients' videos so that they have credibility and more views. That's helpful, and that's the only. But it doesn't show up as an ad. It shows up as exposing people. So when people say personal branding on LinkedIn and then doing a sponsored content, it's gone from personal branding to advertising. It's not the same anymore. So we don't recommend advertising other than on YouTube.
Okay. What you said about being in the heart versus the head and not using a script resonated with me because I find it comfortable talking to you and Becky in this context. But one time I had to do this ad, or I opted to it, I should say. I was invited to, and I just found it really hard. I actually like the product, but I just found it really hard to talk organically to the camera about this thing because I felt like I was playing a role. And so, do you have any advice for, like, if you do actually believe the product, like I bought it myself, but like, did I need more practice? Do you have any kind of? I'm not giving you a whole lot of details here, but any kind of quick tips?
No, it's really easy. I've seen it a million times. If you were explaining that to your partner, oh my God, you should see this product. What would you do? You would just explain everything that made you feel what you felt, and then the logic you felt, and you would explain it. Or you explain to your 8-year-old. You'd say, "You should see this thing. It's so amazing." Why wouldn't you do it that way for the ad? That's authentic, right? Because we think about this, right? We all see people on TV or on thing, and we know they're reading it and it's not them. It's not real, right? What we're trying to get people to do is put yourself out there because you are the gift. Your presence is a gift. You don't know it yet, but it's true. Your presence is a gift. Share your presence with others and be real. Be like, I can't be funny. I'm funny in a room with 50 people and I'm talking. I can do situational funny. I'm not telling jokes. I'm not good at that. So I know what I'm good at and know what I'm not good at because I'm authentic. I'm not going to try to be not going to be an intellectual because I'm not an intellectual. You know that about yourself and just be you. So I'm different. I'm no different with this conversation. And when my wife comes home, I'm going to go talk to her. I'm going to be no different. That's the magic of authenticity. You wear your hats for your roles because you got to be a boss. You got to be tough sometimes. But as a human, you should never change. Whether you're doing an ad or a social media post or a video or you're meeting your buddies, I'm hoping to move the world into just be you. You're the only one that's ever been invented that way. Everybody else is taken. So that's where I would go.
I've been in sales calls before where if I'm on the consumer side, And especially if it's a call where you can't see them, you can hear that they're reading. And as soon as I notice that, I'm switched off. It doesn't matter how good the product is, how great the script is, doesn't matter. There's not a human that's willing to have a conversation with me, so neither am I. I think it applies everywhere.
Becky, there's a crazy thing that we never really understand, but there's an energy in the world, right? We have energy as humans. There's energy exchange here. We're not even we're 3,000 miles away from each other, or 4,000 kilometers. So there's energy exchange. You can feel that on a phone. You can feel that 5,000 miles away. So that's to me, the most important part is you can transfer trust when it's not about you. You feel it when it's about you. You know, oh, he's just trying to sell me something, as opposed to he's trying to help me buy. Selling is service. That's a different way of looking. I want to help them because they have a problem. They can't see it because I can convince them. That's life. But that's the idea: is you feel that you're actually helping somebody, and exchange. Like, we get our clients thanking us, and they're giving us a lot of money. Like, that's every day. Oh my God, thank you. This is a lot of fun. We're having a blast. In the marketing agency, that wasn't like that. It was, whoa, how come we didn't get this many impressions? And why didn't that happen? And the post was late. And this world is all about an executive or a business owner going to the other side of transformation. That's so much more emotional and so much more impactful. And that's why we love what we do.
I'd like to pivot slightly and mention YPO. What were your reasons for joining the organization, and what has been maybe the top or top two most impactful things that you've received as being part of from being a part of it?
So I joined because someone told me to join back in 1999. Simple, right? Because the president of that business, said, Alan, you will be joining YPO. Didn't know anything about it. So I joined, and for the first 6 or 7 years, and this is relevant to the importance of the organization, I was what we call a passenger. I just waited for them to deliver content to me, and it was great. And I met people, and things were great, and it was wonderful. Until I got into leadership, meaning volunteer leadership in the organization. I started becoming a learning officer and a chapter chair and all the things that are titles. Um, Eventually, organically, I made it up to international chair of the organization. The path to success, and I mean that in the success volunteer way, is I started to see myself the way other people saw me. And I didn't see myself that way. So, for example, when I became chapter chair and I looked around the room, and at one point, how could I be leading these people? And then the same thing happened when I became international chair. I had a board of 15. They were all men at the time. And I went, these guys are running billion-dollar businesses. Why are they listening to me? They're listening to me because I'm listening to them. And so I learned about leadership. I learned that when it comes back to that, I'm like a broken record. Even in leadership, servant leadership is not about you, about them. It's about clearing the path. It's about serving them so they can serve your customers. That's what I did in YPO. And the biggest thing in YPO is you're leading leaders and you have no authority. You can't tell them what to do. You need to invite them to want to see change and see it your way, and or collective to make the change. That was the biggest lesson that I learned in YPO, and I carry that with me every day.
Leading other leaders without authority, or just leading others without authority, I think is the only long-term way to lead. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
100%, because even in my own business, now there are exceptions to that rule in my view, because every once in a while you got to kind of tell people, look, this is the fourth time we've had this conversation. We're going to go from loving and empathy to, I don't want to see that again. Is that clear? Yes, I get it, because it's the third time we've had this conversation. So there's a beautiful, happy, loving leadership heart, and there's every once in a while you got to do what you got to do because you're a leader and you have a responsibility to do that stuff. So with our team, but we don't have evaluations. We don't have them. They're every day. Great job, wonderful. Hey, have you thought about how you did that? Is there a different way to do that? Oh yeah, what are you thinking? I was thinking, oh yeah, that makes a lot. So that makes the world of leadership. They know you're always coming from a place of good. You want the best for them, and you're going to give them feedback so they can succeed. So that to me is, so you're absolutely right. It's always that way, recognizing every once in a while, you got to fire people. Every once in a while, you got to do other things that are not pleasant. but it's part of the mantle of leadership,
Finding that balance.
finding the balance. Yeah.
It's such a weird thing if you think about it when people have their valuations once a year or once a month or once a quarter, whenever that is. That might be the first time in the quarter that they find out that they've been doing something they shouldn't be doing, or that they find out that something that they're doing is really working and they should do more of it. It's insane to me that anyone would think that would make sense for anything.
Well, it's the trap. It's the trap of the corporation, Becky. It's the trap of the corporation, right? The trap because they tie it to compensation, right? You'll get 1% if you be a 4 out of 5. You get 2%. Well, in a small business that most of your listeners are, and I'm in a small business, and I've run large businesses before, that has nothing to do with it. It's about serving your customer at the end of the day. And how many times have you're right, Becky, when you say to someone after 4 months, when you do that stuff, we don't like that. Well, I've been doing that for 4 additional months and you haven't helped me. That's not good for my customers, not good for my team, not good for nobody. So, but managers, let's be honest, leadership and management is a gap in the world. When you find a good one, you'll love them forever. Not a lot of good ones, right? So, because they don't understand the difference between leading and managing, right? And they don't understand about setting expectations and vision and values, right? When I used to fire people when I was in sales, they would fire themselves. Why? They knew and I knew when they didn't meet expectations because we had agreed on the values. They knew and I knew when they were not performing that I wasn't going to embarrass them publicly, but I was going to be tough on them because they said, I need you to be tough on me, or I need you to hug me when I'm going badly. They knew that because I asked them, how do you want to be treated when you're not performing? This is what I need. Great, I'll give you what you need, but this is the expectations. And when you hit here, you're on 30 days. And when you hit here, you're on another 30 days, and then you're out. I've had a guy walk into it. I guess we're done now. I guess we are done. Fired himself. Simple.
Such a simple question. How would you like me to behave when this happens? Comes back to that thing of the David was saying. It's surprising that we all get through the day without ripping each other's throats out because we all see the world in a different way. And I expect that, you expect this. I always find it funny when people say, and I say it myself, you just don't do that. And you think, well, no, you don't do that, right? I might, or I might, but we can't go around expecting other people to behave how we behave, or we'll be very disappointed a lot of the time.
I mean, I think we all grow up with different filters in our lives, right? We have different expectations of how we grow up. So that's how we look at something. Like my wife and I don't look at things the same way, but because we have the same values, that's the wrapper that makes everything work, right? If you don't have the right values, then nothing else matters how you see something. We've disagreed on, oh, I see that, you see the square, as David said, in the circles. We can disagree on that, but we're not going to get mad at each other because we disagree. We can agree that we disagree. That's okay. I've got permission to disagree. So do you. That happens in business every day if it's done right.
Good point. Well, you've been a treasure trove of wisdom and some really great stories, Alan. Is there, you can have the last word. Is there anything that you feel that you should say on the topic of personal branding or anything else that we discussed that hasn't been said?
Yeah, I think I just want to land on your presence matters, and if you're not out there, you're not gonna know what you're missing, and if you're afraid, learn how to do that. You can go to our website and see all the videos and learn, and then you can even download a worksheet to help you kind of guide yourself. I think just get started. Just get started. Forget about being afraid. Just get started, and good things will happen in a year if you start now.
Life is short and fear is shorter. Um, where would you like to direct people to follow you, or any places you'd like to?
Yeah, you can. LinkedIn is always a good place. I just mentioned that I was on the podcast, so that because I don't respond to everybody, yes, unless they tell me where they found me. And then strataoriginals.com for more information on us and what we do. And yeah, always happy to help if there's questions. So yeah, that's how you'd be found.
Thanks for the conversation. It was fun.
I enjoyed it. It was nice to meet both of you, and hope to see you again.